the original work of the autobiographical novel 10 Years of Marriage by Su Qing, a female writer in the Republic of China. Chapter 11. The visitor at Dusk Spring in Nanjing is gloomy. But when I arrived in Shanghai, it became quiet. The only thing you can admire is the willow tree at the door of the apartment under spinning hammer picture confuse in the evening. I wander around the door, as if expecting something, but I don't expect it to come. Moonlight lightly touches the willow bronchesi. Had to go back to my room and eat alone. I heard someone walking in a few times, but when I passed by the door of my room, footsteps slipped away again and in disappearing. Won't anyone be coming tonight? I stopped and didn't want to eat any more food. After a while, I suddenly remembered that there was a bottle of Baigan in the small basket. That was just brought back from Nanjing yesterday. Luoyang presented it to Lu Sichen. Lu Sichen gave it to me on purpose. Say you take it back, you might as well put it in your home. Clearly knows that I don't know how to drink. Leave the wine at my house. It's just that he wanted to drink here often. But why hasn't he come yet? He said he was willing to teach me about the waning moon so that typos can be corrected when reprinting is experienced. Siju can definitely help Mebu. Why doesn't he come? Maybe it's the ancient saying that it's better to stay away from each other than to get married. Is he chatting with his wife? Maybe talk about Mu. And a married man begins to have feelings for another woman. He can't tell any, and I have to reveal some meaning to my wife first, like a boast or a demonstration. And he told him some secrets, like a test. If he is anxious, he will be prude also with some piteous long as he's not nagging. But how can a woman have such patience? He will be angry, will force him to stop going out. Is he starting to regret it? Hey, it's always useless if a man is to consider it. I unconsciously picked up the wine bottle, took a big sip. Me heart is beating so hard. Is still lying on the bed. When did Lion Zhao Ningbo come in to clear the table for me? Cover me with quilt. You don't even know if you close the door for me and I wake. Yuppie only heard a knock on the door. Outside Day jumped out of bed in a hurry. It went dark for a while, almost falling down. Agrini finally struggled to open the door. A black shadow flashed. Ini asked drowsily. Coming also happily replied that he had come. Voice doesn't sound like Lu Sichunsi. Reluctantly raised my eyes to see. Isn't he the upright Tan Weiming? Have you drunk? Helped me lie down on the sofa. Asked diligently. Where have you been the past few days? I replied lazily. Nanjing. Is there anything important? If not, go and have fun. What's fun in Nanjing? He object head then fooled into a whack and Ng. Wonder if it was Lu Sichen and the others who asked you to go with them. I nodded and replied, there is also Panzimai. I guessed it was these hypocrites. He Fenrin patted the back of the sofa with one hand and said, talking about traveling around the mountains and rivers. The purpose is to fall in love with a woman. After hearing this, I was unhappy and said, what does it have to do with me? You say they are hypocrites. Then you are a real villain. Grabbed my shoulder blades eagerly and Sadie, don't allow you to say Thathawa Kinjiwa. Don't understand Mehi. You don't know how much I care about everything about you. I'm speechless. Your head on his arm. Also Queetlyth room is also quiet and Weiming began to criticize contemporary figures for me. He said Panzimai is a role model for urban youth. Want to climb up. But I haven't climbed to the top with any foundation. It's just a small politician who succeeds, but it's not easy either. Sometimes he thinks he is very proud of himself. In fact, it looks pitiful. Sichen is the representative of cowardice. He blindly pretends to be noble, but actually he dares not act rashly. Why doesn't he want to become an official and make a fortune? It can be said that there are no people who are truly willing to be indifferent. A person is extremely gorgeous, can't sustain it. Anima Ray have no choice but to use my innocence as a cover in order to become dull. In fact, I have to be calmest for Lu Sichen. He has never been brilliant at all. Talk about being indifferent. It's just a deliberate attempt to raise one's worth. So in the final analysis, they are all faker. Shirthisi couldn't help but stop him and said that I don't want people to criticize my friends in person. Let's go talk about something else. Tan Weiming ignored continued to express his opinions endlessly. I also mentioned Prime Minister Kim called him a fatuous old monotypical confused person. He also said that he would sacrifice for the time spore, but not pity. Said, does he have to be less knowledgeable than you? He replied with a sneer, naturally. Maybe he didn't expect it, but I thought there was nothing I could do. Anyway, he's finished talking about Mr. Qi again. Said he was clever, but in fact, it is insignificant. The pain of political leaders is that they are drug addicts without realizing it. He thought that many of his subordinates were supporting him. Little do they know that these minions will only elevate it to the top and use it as a puppet. And something happens then. They flew away into the forest. You are a woman of hope. He finally said solemnly, advise you to go inland. I said I was just a freelance writer. What does it have to do with them? Long Silenci went on to sigh, what's the use of running around? I believe that all old ducks in the world are always black. We talked again about the anguish of the time. Meston Weiming is a student studying in the Soviet Union. He believes that the world must reevaluate and history must undergo major changement. That terrible. I suddenly felt timid. Said. He laughed. Had said. But what does this have to do with you? You are also proletarian. You don't have a house, land, or huge funds. Is it also you are also an oppressed person? At least it can't be said that you can oppress others by writing articles, right? Don't you have to be afraid? You rely on your own ability to make a living will never be eliminated in any world. I'm afraid you won't write well. Hui King should never be with those hypocritical, cowardly, shallow, and boring people again. You could become a most successful writer. However, if you continue to observe with them, you will have to be reduced to the third or fourth rate. Your style is similar to Manschfelsch has become a famous writer. Abroad luxurious life, but you grew up in China. Your income from selling articles is not as good as that of a little unreasonable woman. Maybe you can survive. No, however, that does not come from being a scholar. That's because you are a woman. When we, but Huikinju don't have to be discouraged. You are innocent. The country is sorry for youth. Country is sorry for any talented literation. This world only male thieves and female prostitutes will succeed. I'm speechless. Also talked about his own life. What kind of deputy commander has he been? I also worked as the president of some newspaper management. But he is an idealist. Be a political commentator rather than a politician. So I hit a wall everywhere. His personality is quite strong. Of course, he would be happy if he won the official position. He lost his official position but refused to express his sorrow. He said he didn't care about fame and fortune. What's so strange about being a mere mayor? As for profit, he has never absorbed the people's fat and people's annoying. It's not his turn to absorb it. Xinfeng's income has no impact on him. When he was mayor, just make one more car. Lost official time. He needs to change his legs after cycling. There are very few people who have been underweight and are willing to tighten their suit trousers to ride a bicycle. He said it was really comfortable. Only likes to chat with his friends, especially when talking about speculation with my girlfriend. It's even more exciting. His voice stopped suddenly. Look at me with sharp as. He couldn't help but feel embarrassed. He started to wonder about him. This is a man who looks exactly like a man, has a strong temper, speaks straightforwardly. Sincere attitude, rich in knowledge and artistic interest. Although he is not good looking and refused to modify it yet, there is an admirable demeanor. He is a good publicist. At that time, I was told by him that I admired him wholeheartedly. I said he was a propagandist. He only found out about it 5 minutes later. Hey, I couldn't help but fall into his arms. Extremely hot spring night. The room seems a little cramped. Head the size keeps shrinking. Depressions closed my eyes, fantasizing about beautiful dreams. Beautiful dreams last for a moment. It ends just as it begins. Ceiling slowly recess. The room looks desolate. The preheated air seems to spread out. Soon it will make people's hearts cold. And Weiming said to me apologetically, "Are you satisfied?" I'm speechless. At a while he said kindly, "Agan, you haven't been sick, have you?" I suddenly became angry. What kind of flowers? If I were a patient with flower willow deceits, already too late for you to regret it. I said to him, "I hate you, and I wish there was something I could pass on to you." Smiled and said, "What's there to be angry about? Don't think that all your friends have status. In fact, the more status a person has, the more likely you are to have the disease is a gentleman's disease. A gentleman benefits and records medicine. So it's difficult to root it," he said bitterly. "But you are not a gentleman. Have you ever had any illness?" He turned to smile. Say you don't believe me, please come and check it. He really want to ask you to check and understand. I started to hate his boredom, turn away and ignore him again. He gently asked, "You if you are tired?" I secretly laugh at the pitiful vanity of men. No matter how much you care, someone who is unsmiling, he always likes to brag in places like this. From then on, I realized that men are one againi, like the psychology of virgins, because virgins have no sexual experience, can be left alone to brag is pitifully. Simply don't dare to have a comparison. They are afraid that middle-aged women are well informed. Joy pays attention to skills. In fact, what is the use of women's skills? The more capable you are, the stronger you are, the easier it is for the opponent's weaknesses to be exposed. The result will be that your hero is useless. A woman's only skill is to learn something she doesn't know or to pant and play at every turn. Increase men's self-confidence. Things went smoothly. Happy women often have to be called Tianu, Tianvien, etc. Probably overkill. Humming so hard that's why others tease her so much. This kind of woman is pitiful. Men are pitiful too. If she believed that her shouting was really beyond her power. And Weiming saw me and didn't speak for a long time. I also feel uneasy, but he was unwilling to admit it. Just say what's wrong. In a mocking way, already lost interest. The youthful vitality is gradually disappearing. I felt unhappy after hearing this. Just sneer retorted that he was old, no longer useful. He hesitated for a moment. He just put on my clothes and got up. We started chatting again. He asked, "What do you think is the most important condition for a union between a man and a woman?" I shook my head and said, "I don't know." He went on to say, "I think the most important thing is the feeling of confidant. If I stab you, at least I know you very well." He'd say that's not necessarily the case. "You said my article is good." He will naturally feel like a confidant. If you criticize my article for bullshit, am I also willing to feel like a confidant to you? He said that's the flattery of a woman who likes a man's family. Men tend to be self-aware. Sneered. Maybe there is self-knowledge. But I don't want people to know. If women are willing to talk more about men, there is no disadvantage. Maybe the opposite is his strength and the man will be proud to bear his. This is a smart woman's way of acting coquettishly. But here I am, he suddenly interjected. "You don't look like a woman." I lower my head. Selendi am a woman and I would rather be a woman. Is it different? That's because the man in front of me doesn't look like a man. Therefore, I will unremittingly use gentleness to create life. It seems like my personality is stubborn. Hope someone can coax Mebu. He can't suppress me. And don't be afraid of Medan. Weiming is also a proud person. He has no strength but want to control and dominate. Method proves his failure. Zishan is a stubborn woman. Taizong dotes on her but refused to let her take power and call her a talented person. So Xiaobieti admire Taizong as a wise ruler. She is naturally willing to be a concubine in front of her. It's a pity that love cannot be completely spiritual. After Al, on the other hand, Taizong is aging in his illness. Met the prince again. The prince is much younger. After Al, his heart jumped. Born with the opportunity to change clothes. As a result, she became Gaizong's queen. The queen is lonely, looked down upon. Gazonga woman cannot get sexual comfort. Then people think of things like greed for money or dictatorship. He finally took over his power. It's time to listen to the government before the court. This made Gaizong believe that he was not like a woman. He was in awe that he had lost his previous interest in Chiatinji. Would rather pity and be imprisoned in the cold palace. The queen and the queen, who were disheveled and haggard all day long. Princess Zhao Zishan felt the sadness of failure. Ash probably has to sit upright in the court. Halavin, a cowardly and useless emperor. Gaizong refused to ask her, so she killed the queen and concubine. The emperor became ill with Peking opera. Also died. He just couldn't respect the order. Let his son take the throne. But Zhongzong's queen Wei Shi is not someone to be trifled with either. Zhongzong loved him very much. Also afraid that maybe his mother won't like him. Jealous and resentful, he decided to depose his son as king of Luoyang. Soon he simply changed his country name. He proclaimed himself Emperor Warwit, a joyful move, but it contains great sadness. Many women thought he was trying to show off to women. But I think that's a woman's misfortune. A woman should meet a man who is stronger than him and make him surrender. He will never let go of her from now on. What does Rokuro mean? Like a lotus? The Queen Mother of the West also felt the same sadness when Zong once believed in Harry's, but I seem to have only a moment of nostalgia for her. Smart and capable woman, even though beautiful, so like a god to make people awe and not dare to ignore it. Just think about it. How can there be anything sacred among emperors? So Wenzong would rather love the maid Xing Huachen, who knows nothing. Jevin Qian, who is a useless fellow teacher, can speak it well. I don't want Sixie Allen. He kind of gave birth to a son. Some people say that he even brought this son into his arms. But anyway, Wenzong finally did not deny that he had a son. So she later became the Queen Mother. Always deserted. There was only one eunuch at her feet, Li Lianying, coaxing her. Even if she had prostituted an actor, what's the point? As he gets older, he will become richer in meritorious deeds. Frightened against old times and jocking Rihi, touching old things. Trying hard to recall the situation when he first gained favor with concubine wife. It's just deceiving yourself. It's been a long time. When Zong had a vague impression on him, he only imagined that he might be a king of Harosto on him, like a delicate and weak little daughter. That is the glory of his youth, like a star flying across heaven. As soon as it shines, it flashes life. His dream, he couldn't help but stand. UPM, such a woman with a heart higher than the sky. But the opportunity is so difficult in years too late. But the precious time passed by quickly. It's too late. Know what does it mean to meet by fate thousands of miles apart? Tan Weiming came from thousands of miles away. However, do you hate me? He said seriously. Do you hate me? You are irresponsible. What responsibility do I have? He suddenly asked me to marry you. Right in front of my face? Who is happy to be like this with you? Fortunately, he said seriously, I never thought of marrying you. You are not a law-abiding woman. Wu in Huiking will propose to you? It shows that he doesn't understand you. You must not agree to him, otherwise your future will be in danger. Smart and capable woman. Wei, do you need to get married? Even men are like this. Then why did you stab me? He laughed and said, it's because I like you. Huiking, do you like me too? I suddenly turned my face away and I'm not satisfied. Damning the men, I know you are of no use. At Aljit Wei advise you to go back and get some unparalleled needles before you find a woman. He was obviously angry but pretending to be contemptuous. He said with disdain, how could you say such a thing? I am this kind of woman. He left sadly after hearing his footsteps walking away. Then I leaned on my pillow and cried bitterly. Alright, this part of the story ends here.
Want to know what happened next? Let's listen to the breakdown next time.